Hello and welcome to Jennifer Knatters, my knitting and nattering video podcast. I am Jennifer and I'll be your host. I do have a little co-host. I'm thinking, let's see. Oh, he just now turned his head. We do have our ginger kitty with us, which is making me very happy because if you watched last week, you might know I had to take him to the vet to get, well, it was just their annual checkup. I have two cats. But he has been having some eye goop and redness and kind of filmy looking. So he is having eye drops, and he's still having his eye drops. So he's largely been running away from me. I am very much the person who is to blame for this. So the fact that he saw me get ready to do this and came running up to sit next to me is making me very happy. And from the way he's purring, it's making him very happy. Let's start again. Hi, I'm Jennifer. And tonight, I apologize for the fact that it is tonight. I have small children, so I sneak out to do this after they go to bed. So forgive the lighting, please. Tonight I'm going to talk about my knitting. Today is I just looked and I already have forgotten. Today is the 16th of August. And I was going to do this yesterday. And then I was kind of like, I don't really have anything to show for a week of knitting. And then I actually checked where I was for last week. And I haven't done that badly. I have too much stuff on the go to have made any significant progress in any one or two things. So yeah, tonight I feel much better about what I've gotten done. Yesterday I was like, I haven't done anything. What am I going to tell people? So I don't know where that came from. Probably the fact that I have to get out of my pajamas and put a bra on to come and do this. I go to bed with, I've got a 2-year-old and she's still, we nurse at bedtime. So yeah, I have to properly get dressed again. I'm still in my pajama bottoms, but I have to put a top on and get up and brush my hair. And anyway, tonight I have a little bit of energy. I'm clearly a bit hyper, a bit manic. Let's just get to it. So the first thing I have to show you is I have finished one. It's my little stitch keeper. I had to guess where to put it because I actually stole the stitch keeper to mark right and, well, front and back. Start of round, I suppose, is the most accurate. I have no words tonight. I stole the progress keeper for the other one, which I just like to hear on the other one. But I have finished this one. I have not woven the ends in. I've just got them, I was peeking out a little on this side. I've just got them tucked in. This is the first mitt. I did change the pattern slightly so that the thumb isn't at the start of round. So this is kind of where changing colors and stuff, it can just be a bit rough. So I moved the thumb to here because I figured as the person wearing it, you see the inside of your arm. You don't really see the outside of your arm. So that's where I wanted the color changes to go. And that's my wee thumb. I did think about playing around with the color order a little. Making it so the yellow would come up as these little ones would be just the start and more of a highlight color. But I've decided just to go with as identical as possible of a twin for this one. Ta-da! They fit fairly, I mean, they're pretty snug. I don't know if you can see for looking at it, but it's narrower here. My tension tightened up going through there, which is kind of fine because that winds up being like the narrowest part, forgive my hair tie, the narrowest part of my arm. I presume other people's arms are narrowest around the wrist. So this is, I haven't said anything at all about what this is. This is this month's Boost Your Knitting project, and the technique covered this month is choosing color for color work, and there's an excellent video on the Arnold Collinford, I don't have any words, the AC Knitwear YouTube page, which I am not really much of a video learner. It is not the best way for me to learn new things. I'd much rather have a photo tutorial. I found it really interesting to watch. It's an interview with Jen and Felicity Felix Ford, who designed this pattern. And they each take an inspiration photo or object. They play around with their bags of, this is Jameson and Smith 2-ply, Shetland 2-ply jumper weight. So they each play around with their kind of stash and work out which colors kind of work together and which don't. It was really interesting to watch. I feel relatively strong in picking colors for color work, if only because, I mean, I've done it for a few different things. I understand about black and white photos, and I'm not afraid to rip things out and say that's not working, let's change it a little bit. I swatched for color work, although in this case I pretty much took the mitts themselves as my swatch. If you watched last time, I think I think it was even before I recorded last time, I'd knit a bit and some of my colors weren't working, so I frogged it and I ordered more colors. I ordered this purple and the green in the background and the gold, that kind of mustardy muted gold, and some other colors that I just don't have in my stash, and then I reknit them. So that's my first project. That is the Skystone Armwarmers by Felicity Felix Ford, also known as Knit Sonic. And yeah, I've knit one. Don't have a ton of motivation for the second one, but it is this month's technique. It's not even that I don't have motivation. I don't know. I've got so many things that I'm wanting to do. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I've knit that. Now I've got second mitt syndrome. Not usually a problem of mine, but I'm excited about new things right now, I guess. So next up, we have these Lilac Phalanges, and that stitch marker is where I was to last time. I had said I had knit up to start the cuff, or I knit a little bit past the heel turn. It's an afterthought heel. These are for my 6-year-old who likes to be called, well, who last told me she wanted to be called Tulip. I don't call her that in real life. But every so often she says, call me this. And I'm like, okay. And the only thing I really do with it is that's how I refer to her on the podcast. So Tulip, my 6-year-old, these are for her, and I had knit just past the heel turn enough and started to go up the cuff a bit, up the leg to the cuff, and I had her try them on, and they were snug, so I had ripped back to the heel turn, and I think that's about where I was last week. I can't remember if it was just after or just before the new heel turn. And so I finished these, and it's a folded over cuff, which is then sewn down. And having finished the first one, I started the second one. Now, I counted how many lace repeats I had done before I turned the heel on this one. 7 lace repeats. So I knit these. And do you know what? I forgot that I was actually 7.5 lace repeats. So I turned the heel and I kept knitting up, and then today I'd gotten, you knit 9 rows plain and then you do the pea-coat and then another 9 rows so that when you fold it over you get that little ribbed little at the top. Well, I had knit to the yarn overs and then I came home and I'm like, oh, it's actually, there's a whole extra, this one's 9 lace repeats, this one was only 8 lace repeats, so I frogged it back to the heel and reknit it, and now I realize that's because this one is halfway through the 8th lace repeat. It's not after the heel turn, it's during the heel turn. And I kept knitting for a while because I'm dumb, and sometimes you're just in denial, but I kept knitting for a while, and then right before bedtime I kind of went, no, if they were for me and one was a little snugger than the other, that would be fine, but they are for my child who is growing. So she really does need one sock not to be shorter than the other, frankly. That's so tomorrow I will rip it back, knit 4 more rounds, and then do the heel turn and keep going. I'm hoping to have these done. School starts back on Tuesday the 20th, and while I certainly will not insist that she wears the socks I've knit for her, if she would like to wear them, I would like to have them done by that time. So that's my self-imposed deadline on these is, and I thought, I'm like, oh yay, I'm gonna finish them today. Twice today I thought, oh, I can finish these, and twice I had to be like, no, you didn't actually. I should just keep the 2 socks together, but I always, my finished socks and the arm warmers and stuff, I've got a little place where I put them while I work on the other. I only have myself to blame. I do this a lot where the 2 are not a matched set because I don't check that closely. I'm always like, oh yeah, no, I know what I'm doing. So that is the Phalanges socks by Clare Devine, and that is from her book Sock Anatomy, which is an excellent book with lots of different heel turns. Some socks that have instructions for both toe up and cuff down. This one is only toe up. Different kinds of heels, different kind of cuffs, different kinds of toes. There's a lot, and the sizes are all baby to grown up. So it's a really good book. I highly recommend it for anyone interested in knitting socks. My next work in progress that I showed you last week is my Customfit Alta pullover, and I have finished the front. There's my stitch marker. That's where I was last time. I was coming up on the end of the front. I have worked the center front and the sides up. I was thinking I'd like to sew the front and the back, which I've already done. The back's where I started, together, but I didn't. I think I will sew it together with a purple sock yarn. I think the sock yarn I used for my Heartgyle socks for last month's Boost Your Knitting project would be a good color match for this purple. The color's not quite coming out right, but yep, it is soft and fuzzy and wonderful and warm. And I feel like I'm on Sleeve Island with it, even though I realized I feel like I started the sleeve last time, but I didn't. I started the sleeve since last we spoke. I've got my, can't really see them on this side, I've got my stitch markers going up the side. I have done 10 of the 18 increase rounds, so I've still got 8 stitch markers. I count out the 18. After a couple repeats, I count out how many stitch markers I need for the instructions repeats, and then I just hang them. Like for the sweater body, it was 4 repeats or 8 repeats or whatever. So then I don't have to keep checking my pattern for how many. When I've used all my stitch markers, that's me done. And this little stitch marker is just where I was when I was knitting, waiting for my children to all be asleep so I could come out here. I just picked this up before bed. I've been working on the phalanges that I need to rip out, but I didn't want to rip them out before because then I'd be like, I knit and it's gone, which is not a very interesting podcast. So yeah, this is the Alta Alta pullover, and that is a pattern by Amy Herzog, and I'm doing it as a custom fit pattern, which is also Amy Herzog's, I was gonna say brainchild, but it's her whole thing. It's her website. It is a way of getting a custom pattern. You put in the measurements of the person you want to knit for, and it now does child sizes and adult male and female body sizes. And so you put in the measurements and you pick your silhouette, and then you get a pattern. Oh, and you knit a gauge swatch, and you say, like, this is how many stitches and rows, and it gives you a custom pattern telling you how many rows to do, how many, everything. It used to give you an estimate for how much yarn you needed, and now she recommends a different app that someone else has, or website, I don't remember, just to check if you have enough yarn for the style of sweater that you're planning. So I've got the front, the back, and the first sleeve is underway. Sorry, I've just got the bag for this on the ground. Normally I keep everything next to me, but Oliver, who just left, was sitting next to me, so I would rather have him than my knitting. And this, the Alta sweater, is just in a linen jumper bag that I got off Etsy a couple years ago, and I don't remember. All I remember is I think it came from Israel. But here we go. And this is kind of the perfect size sweater bag for me, in as much as when I finish a piece, I take it out, and for jumpers, they're in the cupboard where the more yarn is. So all I have in here is the one I'm working on and the current skein of yarn, or if I'm getting close to the end of skein of yarn, the next skein of yarn, and then the pattern and some notions. So I've got this one, and I've got a bag that's just a little bit larger that I also use for sweaters, and that's working out pretty well for me. I would like more sweater size bags, since I would like to knit more sweaters. Then the next one I have up, sorry, my notes are just over to the side here, is a new cast on. And this is, if you've been watching my podcast, this is with the leftovers of my Ripplescrafts Doubly reliable sock yarn. So this is the DK sock yarn base. Her regular 4-ply sock yarn is her reliable sock yarn base. So this is the Doubly reliable. It's the bigger one. And this is one of her storm colorways. They are non-repeatable. It is a non-repeatable way of dyeing. And this is for a test knit for Hunter Hammersen. If you watched last week's video, you know I was knitting another pair of socks, a bright pink pair of socks, also patterned by Hunter Hammersen. And I stabbed myself in the leg with the knitting needles while recording this podcast. I have not touched that project since that. I just haven't felt like touching that project, which I think is very understandable. but she put out a call for test knitters for what is referred to in the test knitting thread as the green slipper test, which is funny because it's funny to me because I knit her last slipper test knit as well. And that one was also called the green slippers in the as the test thread. They have better names. But that one was the green slipper one, and this is the green slipper one. So apparently she likes green slippers, which is totally fair. So yeah, and this slipper starts with, I'm not giving anything away, this is all in Instagram and her website. She posts pictures of her knitting, and then when the pattern actually comes out, she does lots of pictures as well. But it starts with knitting a long strip, which is folded over so that you get a little loop at the top. How cute is that? I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little loop at the top to help you pull your slippers on. And then stitches are picked up on the side and bottom, and you work da 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 da. And I'm currently doing decreases, and then it'll join in the rest of the sock. So this is a test knit. I'm doing the last one. I've made good progress. I think I only started over the weekend. And I've actually caught mistakes. Normally I'm the test knitter who's like, hey, I knit the whole thing and it's all perfect. And other people are like, the maths are wrong here, there's huge typos there, there's glaring errors in other places. And on this one, there have been two things where I've been like, hey, this doesn't seem like it's written out correctly. And I have been correct. So normally I feel like I'm the world's worst test knitter because I am not a close reader. I am not someone, my brain fills in what it needs to make it work. But yeah, for once, I am actually a decent test knitter who is spotting problems, errors in the pattern writing. So, It is 10:20. Yes, it is 10:20. So if I seem a little frazzled, I apologize. I am tired, and tired for me often comes out as a kind of manic. So yeah, one thing I will say, I am knitting these on 2.25 millimeter, which is what most people knit their regular 4-ply socks on. Most people knit regular socks on 2.25 or 2.5. I knit regular socks on 2.0. I've even knit them on 1.75. Maybe it was 1.5. No, I don't remember. I knit a pair of socks on what in US measurements are just zeros. You get down to size 0, which is 2.0. 2.25 is a size 1 US. 2.0 is a size 0. That's what I use as my default for 4-ply socks, for regular fingering weight socks. I have knit socks on ones that are measured in the US as aught or aught, 3 zeros. Once you get below 0, it's just more zeros. So yes, I knit these on 2.25 millimeter needles. So if it's a thin fingering weight, I don't really want to knit on anything below my 2.0 needles. I mean, just physically, they're so small. My hands have been hurting. My hands are still hurting from knitting the one pink sock so fast. Or it's not even they're still hurting from that. They're still hurting from that, and then the fact that I won't just rest and not knit for a while. I have been knitting not as much. I've done other things this week, which I'll show you, including cross-stitching, which I don't have to show. But like holding the tiny metal, having it pressed into your fingers, you can hurt your hands that way if you're doing too much with it. So I don't want to go below 2.0. This is a rant that's partially brought to you by the fact that I was going to show you some West Yorkshire Spinner socks that I've knit that I feel are wearing through particularly quickly. And I feel West Yorkshire Spinner yarn is a little thinner, a little smaller than Opal yarn, comparing commercial sock yarns. And I love West Yorkshire Spinner's colors, and I have no problem with, I like their price points, I like their colors. The yarn it's not soft. It's not supposed to be soft. It's sock yarn. It's supposed to be strong and sturdy and tough. But I just feel like I might like it better for socks if I went down at least a 1/4 millimeter knitting needle size. I'd like the fabric I was getting better, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm kind of feeling a bit conflicted about West Yorkshire Spinners. Like, for the amount of time it takes me to knit a pair of socks, I would like them to last longer than they do. But then when I was writing up my notes for this, I was looking at them, and I think the one that has a hole that I knit not the most recent wildflower socks that I just knit, but the pair before that I knit in West Yorkshire Spinner have a hole in the heel, and I think I must have caught them on something because I hadn't worn them very many times, and they do have a hole in the heel, so I think I must have just snagged it on something. I think they're not wearing through too fast, which is what I was worried about, because I was looking at them pretty closely and they don't look like they're worn through too much. So yeah, I wasn't going to talk about it, and then I did anyway because I'm tired and thoughts are just bubbling to the top. I do have one acquisition this week. It is a knitting book, and this is JimiKnit's Volume 1, and this is it JimiKnit's? I should have looked up how she pronounces her name. I would pronounce her first name as Jimenez because I'm from a Spanish-influenced part of the world, but it might be Jimenez? I don't know. Ms. Jones, I apologize. I should have looked that up first. Joseph, Miss Joseph, not even Miss Jones. I'm sorry. I am tired. I have a new knitting book, and it is lovely. This is a self-published one, and I have followed the designer's blog for a while, although I'm way behind on my RSS feeds because I've been reading books instead of reading the internet. And she has a lot of lovely designs, and I've never particularly bought any of them, but she came out with a book, and this is a mixture of previously published designs, including this one on the cover, and some previously self-published ones, and some new ones. There's socks. These are Bitter and Twisted, and she says, like the designer. That just cracks me up. There is this gorgeous short row shawl. This was the one that really caught my eye. This kind of slouchy, thin-sleeved pullover, slightly lacy pullover. I think that looks very comfortable and flattering for a value of flattering that isn't having to have a figure that conforms. Excuse me. But flattering in a way that, like, when you wear it, you'll feel happy. You'll feel like you look good. And one thing I like about the print one is that all the sizes are color coordinated. So if you pick your size, and then you get your color, and then you just knit. Here's a schematic. So you pick your size, and then all of your instructions to knit that size. You can look at the color, which makes it much easier to follow a multi-size pattern. And she has cricket themed knits as well. She's a cricket fan, which makes me happy. I am not particularly a cricket fan, but my husband is really into cricket. So there's the hat, and then there's a pair of matching fingerless gloves. But yeah, there are old patterns and new patterns, and I actually really like this skirt. I know knitted skirts can be a bit, they don't seem like a great idea because they're bulky, and if you want to have a slim silhouette, one that follows your body, hand knits aren't always going to be the best ones, but I think that would give a nice firm fabric and hold all the different colors on that. The nature of stranded knitting creates a thick and firm fabric with some yarns, and with some yarns can allow for tremendous elasticity. So it would hold its shape well, it would stretch well where you need it to. Anyway, I think it looks like fun. And since I knit my stranded colorwork pullover vest and I almost turned it into a skirt, yeah, I think knitted skirts certainly could be very cute. I believe it was, I want to say it was around £24, including shipping in the UK for this. But honestly, pretty much as soon as I bought it, I forgot how much it cost. Not in a I don't know what I'm spending sense, but just in I can't remember the exact where the breakdown was with the shipping versus the price of the book. And this collection will not be available digitally, so the only way to get it is this limited edition book. It is, I mean, it's not a very substantial book, but the paper feels nice. The paper inside feels nice. It is certainly more substantial than a magazine. And it's just a slim little volume with nice pictures, and there's some tutorials in here, and I really like her voice. Shortly after I moved to Scotland I used to live, for a while I lived in Oakland, and then I at least lived near Oakland. And Oakland, California, if you are not familiar with it, at one point, I don't think it still is, but at one point it was considered the Black capital of the US. I think Atlanta probably has that title now. It was where the Black Panthers in the 70s were headquartered. It was a much more diverse part of the world than where I currently live in northern Scotland. I am used to seeing people whose ancestors lived in different continents in a way that you don't. Here in Inverness, it has gotten a lot better. In the 10 years I've been here, I've noticed there are a lot more people of color around, and the activities I do and everything. It's not as painfully white as it was. But after I moved to Scotland, because I no longer had friends and coworkers and half the people on the bus and, you know, the people you run into in shops, like the people I saw around me were suddenly all very white like me. I did make a point of looking out for knitters because that's what I'm interested in. Specifically even UK knitters, because again, I'm trying to find my place here of color, and Ms. Joseph is one of the ones, and I have followed more than I am currently following, in as much as blogs are my preferred medium. I like the written word. I do a video podcast because I simply do not have time to type things up and add pictures and links and everything. You'll notice I don't have links in my show notes. That's just not the kind of thing. I don't have a lot of editing. I like a very natural voice. My video podcast is not heavily edited. It's not heavily scripted. You may have noticed it's almost unscripted. It's very fly by the seat of your pants and rambly and very natural, very real, we're just two people having a conversation, except it's me and me on the screen and I'm the only one having the conversation. But the video podcasts I enjoy watching are that style. The blogs I enjoy reading are more towards that style than a very professional, I don't even want to say very polished, because it's not that. It's a very corporate, a very branded. That's the word I was looking for. Someone who's very much, like trying to stay true to their brand. That doesn't do. I like the human connection, even if it is a false human connection of they don't know I exist. It feels like a human connection. And anyway, Miss Joseph is one of the ones whose way of presenting herself to me felt very natural. So she is someone that I have been watching casually, in as much as she updates her blog and I have time to check my blog reader, which lately is not. I look on and I either have nothing to read because I've read it all, or I have 200 and I can't skip things. Oh no, I can't. If I'm 3 days behind on Twitter, I will catch up. I can't skip things. I have to keep everything very small because I don't follow people I don't have a human connection with much. I mean, there's a couple where, like, oh, well, I like this one or that one. I don't follow people I don't feel I have a human connection with, because I can't just, I'll look and see whatever there is that pops up. I want to know everything. I can't miss anything. I have to catch up. Although I can't do that quite so much on Instagram, because sometimes they just hide things from you, frankly. It's absolutely crazy. They decide what to see, and there's no way to look at your timeline in chronological order and catch up. That's very long-winded, and I don't know if I went anywhere, but yeah. I have been following her designs for a while, and she has a book, so I bought it, and it is a very nice book that I have enjoyed, and I might even knit a few things from this. Mostly I buy books and then I'm like, look, what a nice book, and put it on the shelf, which is also what I do with my magazines. I really need to be less precious about keeping my magazines or even subscribing to magazines, because as much as I enjoy the experience, yay, I got something in the post, I don't really knit the patterns that often. This one's from a magazine. This is from Knit Now magazine, which is the only one I currently subscribe to. And this is the Skale cardigan by Carrie Westerman. I have sewn my front button band together, so mine is now a pullover. And I do have the magazine it was published in, but when there was the knit along for this, I bought the pattern simply so I could have one that was easy to carry around and write on and stuff like that. So yeah, I get a magazine because I enjoy getting post more than because I'm actually going to knit any of the things in it. I put things on my queue and my favorites and stuff, and then there's always something shinier to knit. And I am rambling. I think I've spent like 12 minutes talking about this. That's my acquisition. I got a book. It's very nice. It came very quickly. The other acquisition is I did go to the wee fabric shop and I bought some fabric. But before we get there, I did a little sewing over the weekend. And if you remember back in June, I did a wee sewing class. I want to have one weekend day a month to myself with at least a block of hours without my children. My husband's allowed, except in as much as we don't really have childcare in any way, shape, or form. So if I'm not watching the kids, he's probably watching the kids. Anyway, I did a sewing class at the Wee Fabric Shop here in Inverness, and I made a little drawstring bag that I was using as a knitting bag for a while. And then I kind of decided I didn't like, it wasn't the most, it wasn't perfect as a knitting bag. But I finally, this past weekend, decided I was going to finish. I had started a second one. And I was basically at the point where I would sew the lining and the outer bag together. So I went into the sewing room when my husband and children were watching telly together. I snuck off and I lopped off the top of the fabric and used it to make this, because the drawstring is at the same point it was at the other bag, but then it had the top of the bag above it. So I lopped it off and used it to make a handle. And then I did a single drawstring, and this week when I went there I got a little toggle clasp to make a little sock bag. And this is the one my Phalanges are in. This is an unlined bag. It does have, this is denim at the bottom, so it's a little stronger. Not unlined, it's uninterfaced. That's what I meant to say. It is lined. But anyway, I cut it off, I made the handle, and then I did the top and the casing and threaded it through. So that's all I had to do for this one. Although I also had to, I haven't used my sewing machine in years. So I had oiled it when I came home from this class because I was like, yay, I'll do sewing. And then it sat there for 2 months. But I have sewn a thing. And then I went to the fabric shop. Tulip is doing a class a couple blocks away from the Wee Fabric Shop. So one day while she was doing that, I took Catherine, my 2-year-old, and we went back and I bought some bits and bobs to make a larger sweater one for myself. And there was also a wee kit to make this open basket. And I thought, okay, I will buy that. And it came with the pre-cut fabric, thread, instructions, and these little strappies. So I made an open project bag. There wasn't a lot of selection on the fabric, but I went with the cupcakes, and I figured this can go on my dresser, and I can put my pile of washcloths and hankies and stuff can go in my wee bag. Although my 6-year-old has already suggested she might borrow it. Can she use it as a carrier bag? And then today I went in. I made this Wednesday when we got home from the fabric shop. Well, we came home from Tulip's class, but I'd been to the fabric shop. And then today I made this, and this one is interfaced. This is, Oliver just came back. I don't know if you saw him came in. Oliver just came back and lay down on my lap. Good kitty. He's my baby. I love him so much. My little fur baby. Are you looking now? Yes. And I don't know if you can see that his one eye is not, sorry about that. His one eye is not as open as the other, and he's been having the antibiotic cream in his eye, but it's not really seeming better. So I'm probably gonna have to take him back to the vet next week once Tulip is back in school. But I made a wee project bag. I bought this fabric back when my 6-year-old was a baby, was an infant, and I made a soft box, an interface box like this, but like that big. And then I had leftover fabric, which I had pre-cut into panels to make another box, another open like toy thing. You can, soft-sided toy box. So I took 2 of the green and 2 of, sorry, got loose threads there. 2 of this, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of a mottled dark purple, an almost brownish purple. And I was hoping it would be a bit bigger, but I think I boxed the corners too much. But it's still a really good sock size. And considering, like, this is the original project bag for this one had this cord run out each side, and then you pull both sides together to pull it tight. And I decided to do one and a toggle. So I have the other one and another toggle here, and this one I didn't make a handle, but I can just wear the string on the cord on my wrist to carry it around and stuff. But I think that's not half bad. One of the things I did while working on this one, I did press this one a bit as I was going. I did not press either of these as I was going because I don't want to get, the ironing board we have is very big, very squeaky, not very steady, and would basically take up, the sewing room I have is also the kids' playroom. It is full of their toys. So as I've been sewing, Catherine has been playing on the floor near me, and if I had the ironing board set up, either she would knock it over or there wouldn't be room for her, or it would just be stressful. So I ordered a wee one I can put on the table, just kind of next to me. Excuse me. So I didn't even bother getting the iron out when I worked on either of those this week. I did have the iron out on this one, and then I spent a lot of time like, don't touch the table, you'll knock the iron off. And today I was working on this one and I took my foot off the pedal and Catherine came up under the table and pushed it down for me. So there's some uneven stitching from that as well. It's like, no, stop. I'm turning the switch off on the side, and then I go to sew again. I'm like, why doesn't it? Oh yeah, I switched the power off on the side. As it is, when I'm done sewing, I turn off the wall, and then I had it plugged into an extension cord. So I unplug it from the extension cord and I unplug it from the machine. So there's like 3 places where I switch it off and take things apart so they can't play with my sewing machine, at least not while electricity is coursing through it. But yeah, I made 2 project bags and a wee basket this week, so that's been a fair amount of my time, so no wonder I haven't been getting as much done. And I have worked on my cross stitch, which I don't have to show you, but I have worked on my cross stitch a little bit, and it's I mean, it's going to be a good size project, but it's not a lot of stitching. It's just a little design. So I've made good progress on that. Honestly, I worked on that a couple of nights this past week. I haven't done anything in the garden. Even it's been wet, and even when it's not raining, it looks like it's going to rain. And my kids have gone outside to play occasionally. I'm like, I'll just sit inside and keep an eye on you, which is the good life. I mean, that's all of the gardening I've been doing the last 2 years has been when the 2-year-old, and she was 1 last year when she wanted to play outside. I'm like, nope, wherever you are, I have to be. So if she played in the back garden, I gardened in the back garden. If she played in the front garden, I gardened in the front garden. And now she's a little bit older and less likely to run down the middle of the street, which is what she did last year. She climbed over our little garden wall and took off down the middle of the street as I yelled, no, stop, come back. Just running down the middle of the street. I caught up with her 2 houses down, but she was 1.5. I could, yeah, no, she requires supervision. So yeah, I guess that brings us, I don't know why, I've got it written at the top of my notes to say that I'm going to Perth. I mentioned it at the very end last week, and I wasn't making any sense at that point. I bought train tickets to go to Perth. I'll be going to Perth. I'm going to mention this in every podcast up until I actually go to Perth. I'm going to the Perth Yarn Festival. I'm going on the Saturday. I should be there between roughly 11 and 4. If you see me, please come up and say hello. If you know me, which I'm assuming everyone who watches this pretty much does, I do not have a lot of viewers. If you feel that I know you, I suppose would be a better way of saying that. Please don't assume I'm going to recognize you and come up and say you. I have terrible face blindness. I memorize people's clothes, and that's how I recognize them the rest of the day. I'm really bad. We went swimming on Tuesday, and we had gone swimming last week one day with a friend of the family. They have a young 20-something daughter who went swimming with us because you have to have one adult for each child. Well, I could take 2 6-year-olds, but a 2-year-old requires one adult, so I need a separate adult for the 6-year-old. But we went swimming, and I was having a problem because both times we went swimming, there was another person there wearing the same swimming costume as the friend we went swimming with. And even though, like, I could look at their face and be like, oh no, that person has a different color hair and is 10 to 20 years older, my first thought was, there's the swimsuit, because I look at clothes. Anyway, the odds of me recognizing you, I'll probably look at you and be like, oh, that person looks really familiar. Come up, say hi. I remember people. I remember stories. I remember things people tell me about themselves. Terrible with faces. Not great with names either. But yeah, come up, say hi. Hi. I'm shy, but I'm an extrovert, so talking to people is a lot of fun for me, and I'm mostly going to hang out. I do not need yarn. Someday I will show you my yarn stash, and you will be like, no, she doesn't need yarn. So yeah. I am going, my notes have now changed page. I am going to Perth. If you are going to Perth, please say hi. I would love to say hi. I'd love to hang out. I'd love to talk. Yeah. There was a wee kerfuffle in the Loch Ness Knit Fest community where a woman of color had asked, basically she asked, is it safe for her to go? Will she be the only person of color there? Are any of the people involved in the organization teaching, vending, also going to be people of color? And unfortunately, the answer this year appears to be no. I didn't go through the list of vendors and see if I could find a picture of the person, but the ones I recognized, which is probably about a third of them, are all white people. The pictures of the people teaching the classes all look pretty white. I know that looking white is not the same as being white, but certainly if you're going and you want to know if anyone else there is going to look like you, looking white is going to be an issue in that one. And the people running the festival, there are some festivals that are made by knitters. Edinburgh Yarn Festival, where people who love knitting, love craft, love crochet, love, I tend to use the term knitter, but I know that knitters aren't the only people in the world. Makers who say, wouldn't it be great if everybody came to us and we could all just squish wool together and learn things and hang out and be happy? And then there are yarn festivals that are done by business people who think this is an exciting, different business venture. Loch Ness Knit Festival is the latter. It is not organized by knitters. It is organized by people who organize conferences, who have decided to add a knitting conference to Inverness to kind of round out whatever. I want the Loch Ness Knit Festival to succeed because I live in Inverness. The Inverness Knit Festival in Inverness is the one that is the most convenient for me. I don't have to book a train, book hotels, plan long excursions. It's very convenient for me. I want it to do well. I want people to come to me and then we can hang out. I don't drive. You come to me. This will be, I think, the 4th year. There have been various issues. I will say they have learned from their mistakes. They have made mistakes. And certainly knitters organizing a yarn festival would also make mistakes. Mistakes get made. That's the nature of the game. Anyway, the person who is currently their social media representative, who does not have a particular understanding of knitting, I don't think. By the time, I'm assuming it's a he, the name reads male to me. By the time he got around to answering the question in the thread in the Loch Ness Knit group, people were already kind of, feathers were ruffled. People were like, oh, well, the fact that they're ignoring this question does not reflect well on them, which is true. Anyway, this person said, I'm sorry, I don't, like, he has a notebook of things he's supposed to do in various things, and he just wasn't checking the group. He forgot about it, or he didn't say, but, you know, like, oh, this isn't something, they've advertised a position, although I asked how much they were going to pay, and anyway, it was, oh, let's talk, instead of, here's what we're offering to pay. Anyway, that's an entirely different thing. Anyway, the social media person who was covering Ravelry went on to other things. They don't have a person, so now it's been rolled into this person's job. He wasn't doing it. Unfortunately, he included the phrase, I don't even remember what it was, but he didn't appreciate being attacked like this. White people don't do that. I'm not saying we don't. White people, stop doing that. Being asked about racial things is very uncomfortable. It's not a lot of fun for the people asking either, I don't imagine. From everything they've said, it's absolutely freaking terrifying. Being asked about it is uncomfortable. You won't like the answers. You don't like thinking about this. It's not a pleasant subject. But there are people who live with it every day. It is coded into the very fabric of their reality. As white people, we can be like, oh, no, that's unpleasant. I don't want to deal with that. And step away and live in a nice, safe, happy bubble that doesn't involve that. That's not okay. Being asked questions that make you feel uncomfortable is not the same as being attacked. Being uncomfortable is not the same as being attacked. Being uncomfortable is yourself. That's what you're bringing to the party. Just because you feel really uncomfortable doesn't mean you're being attacked. And there's a whole history of racism tied into the idea that the person asking the questions is attacking you. Oh, and now they're the bad guy and you don't have to ever deal with it. It's racist. I'm not saying the person doing this is racist. I'm saying everything around us is racist, and sometimes you will do the things that are racist in the world around you. You will uphold the racism. Anyway, I went on a bit of a rant last weekend. I think that was Saturday morning. I spent 2 hours like, that thing you did, that's not okay, and let's talk about how it's not okay, it's not okay, it's not okay, it's not okay. I'm not yelling at you, I'm just saying, like, what you said you don't realize is part of a very, very racist dialogue structure that we've all been taught. This is how we've been taught to react to things. This is, I feel I should have looked this up, but someone passed, it was a quote that passed through my Twitter stream, and the quote struck with me and the name didn't. And the quote was, "Racism isn't the shark, it's the ocean." Everything about our lives is part of a racist system. So things we do, things white people do, things people of color do, people hold up their own oppressive regimes. The whole society is racist. We will think things and then we'll realize they're racist. I think it was Terry Pratchett who said there's first thoughts and second thoughts and third thoughts, and first thoughts are what you were taught. Second thoughts is who you are now. Third thoughts are who you're learning to be. So the first thing someone says something, you think, oh, and then you go, oh shit, I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I'm such a horrible person. First thoughts, you're going to think racist things. We live in a racist society. This is what you've been taught. This is what you've been steeped in. It's automatic. And then you step back and you go, that's not who I am. And then you can step back further and say, that's not who I want to be. First thought, second thought, third thought. Work for the third thoughts. Try to move the third thoughts up to the second thoughts. Hope that we can raise a generation for whom the second thoughts will be their first thoughts. It could happen. I mean, compared to what my mother was raised in, I am already at her second thoughts as my first thoughts, but they're still racist. The society is still racist. We're all going to step in it and put our foot in it and everything. The person from Loch Ness Festival did come back on the Monday and say, you're right, that was not okay. We clearly need to do better. We will certainly try to do better. And that they had spent the weekend catching up kind of on racism in general, and specifically on the conversations around racism, the events that have come to, a couple weeks ago when at the Yarn Festival, when someone who was there signing books attacked a vendor verbally, and it was a white man attacking a woman of color using racially charged, racist. Excuse me. I hope you didn't hear that. Anyway, they did step back. They apologized. And, I mean, people say they're going to work to be better. Time will tell if they do better. But they are at least aware of and acknowledging the problem, that's a good first step. Time will tell if it's the only step. It's not enough if it's the only step, but it is a good first step. And I will say there was a thing, but hopefully they will be doing better. So drama. Anyway, I was going to talk about family stuff. I'm already at over an hour. I wanted this to be a shorter episode. I don't think any of the nighttime recorded episodes are going to be shorter ones because I cannot shut up when I'm tired. It is the last full week of the summer holidays, and I had booked Tulip in for a summer camp for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This is about the only thing we've done all summer where you book in session by session and not week by week. Because Tuesday, I figured Tuesday and Thursday we could do different things, and Tuesday was a house cleaner day, which are always really stressful days for me if I need to do anything else, because I have to get the house tidy before they show up. They show up when they show up. They come on a day, not an hour, although they do try to come in the afternoon. They are aware that I am going to be tidying up on the day, and that I'm usually the last house they do. And so I spend the whole day like, I'm trying to tidy up. And Catherine spends the whole day like, hey, everything you just put away is my favorite thing that I have to play with right now, and gets it all back out again. So tidying up is particularly stressful. And trying to tidy up by a certain time to go do something else is even more stressful. So I wasn't going to plan anything for the Tuesday. But then the person we were going to go swimming with on the Thursday said she couldn't do Thursday anymore. So we bumped that up to Tuesday. And anyway, Tulip actually liked the summer camp so much that I signed her in for the Thursday as well. So, sorry, hold on just one. Sorry about that. My husband just passed through. It is 11 o'clock at night and something broke in his code. So he has to go fix it. Normally, this would be going to bedtime. So I was talking about Tulip. I'd signed her up for the summer camp. It wound up being like the first day, from all the things I could see through the windows, they were playing football most of the time, and she is not big on organized group sport. But she said it was a lot of fun, and she was really excited to do more of it. So we went on the Wednesday, and she still had a lot of fun. So I booked her in for the Thursday as well. And then while she was there, that was the day I went to the Wee Fabric Shop. Not just being Scottish, that's what it's called, the Wee Fabric Shop, which is also in Hilton. And then Thursday was the day when I collected her. I'm like, oh, what'd you do today? They watched Despicable Me Too. I'm like, that's a 90-minute movie? What? And then they went and they played with really bouncy balls. And like, that's, so basically you just sat in chairs and watched a movie whole day? She's like, yes. I'm like, okay. I mean, on one hand, I thought I was signing you up for like someone to actually entertain you for 2 hours, but I suppose technically I was signing you up for someone else to supervise you for 2 hours. So yeah, okay. One day you watched a movie. And then when we came home, she wanted to watch Despicable Me 3, so I put that on the telly for her. We have all the Despicable Me movies. We don't have the Minions one, but we have Despicable Me 3 is on Netflix, and we have the first two on the Apple TV. So yeah. And then went back today, and it was the final day. And so I asked her what her favorite thing, like what was her favorite thing they did in the 4 days of summer camp she went to this week. And she said watching Despicable Me Too. So I guess it's better to watch it with a group of other kids in an uncomfortable chair. She said her bottom hurt, so she sat on her hands. After a while her bottom hurt and she sat on her hands. But yeah, Despicable Me Too was the best part of the whole weekend, or the whole week. And we went into town on Monday. We got the bus from Hilton into town, and I bought her new school shoes. I took her to get her feet measured, and Catherine's feet are still a 6.5, and Tulip's were a 12.5, I think, 11.5, 12, no, I can't remember. Anyway, she was up a size. So I got her new school shoes and new trainers, and they were 45 pounds each. I'm just like, what? Why do you have such expensive feet? Shoes are one of the things I don't skimp on, simply because if you hurt your feet as a child, and bad shoes can do that, I mean, hurts your knees, it hurts your hips, it hurts your back. This is a lifetime of damage you can do to small feet. So shoes are one of the things I do not like. Clothes from the charity shops, not a problem. Toys from the charity shop, best thing ever. Shoes will be new shoes. They won't be, I mean, I don't wear cheap supermarket shoes either. Like there will be ones that talk about ergonomics and support and cushion and all sorts of stuff. 45 pounds. The 7-pound shoes at Tesco are sounding better. But yeah, she got new shoes and she absolutely loves them. Her trainers are sparkly and they have flashing soles, and anyway, she also has narrow feet, so finding shoes that fit her is not really something we can do at, Tesco or off the rack where it's just sizes and not widths. They're not going to fit her very well. So yeah, new shoes, very expensive. And then on Wednesday she wanted to go into town after as well and do the same thing we did on Monday. And I'm like, but we already bought shoes. We're not buying shoes again. She's like, no, but I'm like, you just want to go spend money. We don't have money. Or at least we don't have, let's go into town and find things to spend money on money. So yeah, that was shoes. So expensive. And does anyone else think every time they buy their kid new shoes that their feet suddenly look like 3 inches longer? I always think that. New shoes, and I was just like, how did your feet get so big? Suddenly, they're bigger. Catherine was very sad she did not get new shoes. She really wanted to get new shoes if Christina was getting new shoes. Sorry, Tulip. And then we came home and Tulip showed her new shoes to Daddy. And then Catherine went and got her most recent new shoes, which was the sandals I bought her at the beginning of the summer. And she got those to bring to show to Daddy. Catherine has been doing well with potty training. She is very motivated by candy. She gets a Skittle or a Haribo after she uses her toilet. And she comes running up, candy, pee, candy. Like, okay, baby. And just the last couple of days, she started, every time she feels an emotion, she goes like this. So when she's happy, it's and when she's surprised, it's but it's so cute because it's her whole face and her mouth is open as big as it can be, and she's just like, and it is absolutely adorable. And I don't know where she suddenly got the idea to do that, but it is really cute. And she's been well behaved while Tulip, has been at her class. There's a little soft play there where I can take the toddler. So we've 2 hours is enough that we could even have walked home. Certainly enough we could have gotten a taxi there and back, but that's expensive. But it's enough time we could have walked home and, I don't know, had like half an hour at home before we had to go back. But we just spent the 2 hours, except the day I went to the fabric store, the 2 hours at the soft play and had lunch, and that was nice. I did knitting. Today I did knitting on a sock that I'm going to pull out again. And I already closed up my notebook, but now I'm thinking there's something in here that I have forgotten. If there is, I don't know what it is. Thank you for sticking with me if you've made it this far. And please join in next week. I hopefully will have finished Tulip socks because I want her to be able to have them on Tuesday. But maybe have finished the other arm warmer. That would be nice because then I'd be done with them. Although anything I finish, I suppose I would be done with. Logic is not my strong suit past 11 o'clock. Anywho, thank you very much for watching. And if you're going to Perth, look for me. say hi. Don't just like, stare awkwardly from across the room. Say hi. And yeah, I will hopefully talk to you next week.